What's up, YouTube? I'm Brett from Rants. As always, if y'all enjoy our content, don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave that comment down below. We're on the road to 1,000, and we hope you guys can help us get there. Alright, so this will be our review for the Snyder Cut. Um, Overall, I thought it was miles and miles better than what Joss Whedon's version of it was. Was it perfect? No, it was not. It had some iffy kind of moments in it that I'm like, why did they have to add that? Some scenes that they had been building up, to me, didn't pay off quite as well. Another thing that was the problem with it for me, and it's the biggest problem that I'm going to have all the way around, is it was, 4 hours long. I mean, if let's say we just got Snyder's version of it, the 2 hour version of it, not 4 hours, but 2 hours. If we would have got that 2 hours, how many of these scenes would have been in there? How good would it have been? We wouldn't have been able to maybe expand upon a lot of the characters' backstories quite like what he was able to do with 4 hours. So in that regard, I'm kind of like, yes, this was better quality, but it was because it had 4 hours. I mean, man, if you cannot tell a story in 4 flipping hours, then you don't deserve to be a director. That's just the way I look at it. So I'm like, yes, it was better, but yes, he had far, far more time to, concoct this story and to kind of bring everything around. If he would have just done it in the 2 hours, well, we'd have probably ended up with something closer to what Whedon's version was. At the end of the day, I'm like, I want to give him praise. But then at the same time, I'm like, would it have been that much better? Or would it have been about the same? I would almost argue it'd been closer to the same because we wouldn't have got to expand out on these other character storyline that made the Snyder Cut so good. That's just my initial reaction of it. There's some things about it that I didn't really like that I know a lot of people they're just loving. I did not actually like Ray Fisher's cyborg storyline. I thought I thought I just don't like his acting. I just do not like his acting. I did not realize how bad his acting was in the Whedon cut, or the Whedon version, I guess you could say. Um, it's just he whines about everything. He sulks throughout the whole movie. Uh, he's not the fun cyborg that I guess I've come to remember, from whether it be Teen Titans or you know uh, any of these other kind of shows. And I get it; they're telling his original story. They're trying to tell a realistic version of it. If you had your body completely and torn apart, and your mother was killed in a car crash, and you blamed your father for it, you'd probably be pissy too about things. So I get that aspect of it, but I'm just like, they made him way too sulky. I didn't really like that. And then there was that scene where his father was like, there's a voiceover where his father's like, well, I trust you with these powers. And then very first thing he does is he's like, I'm going to go give money to people. Well, money doesn't just grow on trees. So if you took money out of, I don't know, somebody's bank account to give to somebody else, isn't that stealing? Aren't you kind of like a weird Robin Hood supervillain kind of like person at this point? I didn't understand that aspect of it. I get what he was doing was good, but I guess it's good compared to whether or not it was your money he took. So, I kind of feel like I wish they would have almost left that off because it just felt awkward to me. I just didn't enjoy that aspect of. I didn't enjoy that scene, and it to me it was just. I felt like Ray Fisher just overall just acts way too much. Like he, all he can do is that one thing, crying about everything. He's a grown man. He's crying because his daddy wasn't at the game. And then his mom turns around in the car to go and console him. And then they get into this wreck. And then he's like, well, it's your fault. And he tells his dad, it's like, your fault. If I was his dad, I'd been like, look, buddy, you're the one that was crying in the car. Like, I mean, you're the one, actually the reason why your mom's not there. Um, Another thing is he's pissed off because his dad, I don't know, saved his life. I guess that's a thing. I don't really understand that. I get it. He thinks he's like this weird monster and things like that. But I mean, as a father, I would kind of be like, look, you're my son, and I'll do whatever I can do to save your life. So I'm kind of I guess I'm looking at it more from a father's perspective than probably a, human perspective in that way. Because at the end of the day, I'm going to try to save my son doing no matter what means I have to do. I would try to save my son. So, I mean, I guess in that way, I'm looking at it from a father perspective more than a human perspective. I wouldn't want to be in Cyborg's position either, so I kind of get that. Um, Another thing, um, if there was one thing about Whedon's version that I actually enjoyed when Aquaman and Batman first met. I thought that was a really cool scene. There was a lot of some kind of, I guess you could say they were corny jokes, but it was funny. It was kind of a nice banter back and forth. For some reason, they took that out. I didn't really understand that. And then I don't remember if this was in the Whedon version, but it just was really odd with the women singing when Aquaman uh, was leaving, and then the woman smelling his sweater. Like, that was just really weird. It's like, like, what was that? What was that? Like, why would you, if you're in the director's room or the editing room and you're looking at that and you're like, that's not weird. Nothing about that is weird. This isn't a Charmin commercial. Like, come on, man. Like, don't have that in your film. It just overall was just really stupid in that way. So I'm like, yeah, that was really dumb. Overall, I mean, I just felt like that maybe they could have added a little bit of a little bit more back and forth banter between Batman and Aquaman in that situation. I think they maybe should have left that banter in there that was originally there. I think it would have actually have been a lot better than the women singing and the woman doing the weird sniffing of the sweater. I think that would have actually been better. Um, Another thing, um, I thought I didn't really enjoy Aquaman's character quite as much in this. I actually thought Mira was actually a lot better. Her fight scene with Steppenwolf was pretty cool. I mean, she was sapping the water from his face and like almost had him there for a while. Like, Steppenwolf is an amazingly powerful character, and like she almost had him there for a little bit. In fact, I almost kind of thought she was actually fought him a lot better than what Aquaman did. So I actually thought that was kind of a cool scene. I'm glad that was added. Not quite sure why Mira has a British accent though. That kind of threw me off a little bit. I don't really remember that from the Whedon version, or I could just be completely and totally wrong about that. Which I don't know if she was in the Whedon version exactly. I'll have to go back and watch all that, but I don't remember quite as much of Mira, even in Aquaman, of sounding that way. I could be completely and totally wrong, but it just, I don't know, something that was kind of off to me about that. Maybe it was just a little bit stronger of a accent that caused me to notice it the most. But by far, the biggest upgrade in Snyder's version is Steppenwolf. Steppenwolf looks amazing in this film. he looks like the character that you imagine him looking. The you know this ultimate bad guy, or I won't say ultimate, but to Justice League at this moment, he's like the ultimate bad guy. That is like almost unstoppable. He's just slinging around horses, and arrows are penetrating him, and he's just popping them off like it's nothing. Like, I mean, I love that version of him. I thought his lines were improved. Like, he didn't come off as kind of weird with his dialogue. He had a improved version of dialogue. He had an improved version of look, and of the fight scenes were just vastly, vastly improved. So overall, I mean, if there was any big, big upgrade that really just made me go, you know what? I love the Snyder Cut. It's Steppenwolf. Like, Steppenwolf just was so cool in this. I loved it. The only, and this is just a nitpicky way of me, or something that kind of stuck out to me, is he's supposed to be making up for something, and they never really explain what it was. And I guess in Whedon's version, I could maybe understand it a little bit more when, he's the one that's fighting out there, and you're seeing him, his first retreat. And you could be like, okay, well, that's what he's being exiled for, is maybe a first retreat. But in this one, it was just kind of a little bit weird. Like they didn't even bother to explain it, and I was kind of a little bit disappointed by that. Because let's face it, Steppenwolf is not gonna be in Justice League 2 if there ever is a Justice League 2, because he's dead. Like, so I'm like, I don't really understand why they did that exactly, why they didn't explain it more. Him fighting with the other characters, I felt like was just made them feel important. Where, with like Whedon's version, I always felt like, well, why are they there? Like why is Wonder Woman, the Flash, and all of that Cyborg there when they're clearly outmatched by Steppenwolf? I felt like in this they gave him more of a fight, and their powers were a little bit more defined. They actually had a purpose. It wasn't just like, we have to have Superman, on this. Like, they were giving him a fight. And I love that aspect of the Snyder Cut better than Whedon's version. Because that was my biggest gripe from Whedon's version, was what was the other characters there? Once Superman come back, it's like, forget Wonder Woman, Aquaman, all of those different characters. Just forget them all the way around, because they're completely and totally pointless against Steppenwolf. So, they needed Superman at that point. But they didn't actually need... well, I mean, yes, of course they did need Superman. But the one that played the biggest role in saving them was not Superman, but the Flash. Him running back in time to go after, the mother box exploded and everything, on life basically is incinerated. So, I mean, him running back in time, and that was an amazing scene, probably the best scene throughout this movie that I enjoyed, that I was like, yeah, I was like really cheering about it. I thought it was a great scene, and it gave him something to do instead of just saving this random family that's out in the middle of, I don't know, where was it, Russia? Like, I didn't like that scene back then, and I'm glad that they just completely and totally done away with it. So yeah, I really think that was a big, big upgrade. I will say this though, Darkseid. Darkseid, Darkseid was kind of a letdown to me. And I'll tell you the reason why Darkseid was a letdown. Yes, he looked amazing on screen. No doubt. He looked amazing on screen. But it was the scene where they replaced him with Steppenwolf in the flashback scene. And yes, we got to see some really cool things. We got to see him kill a Green Lantern and all of those things. But at the same time, it wasn't. It didn't feel. It didn't feel like he was just this all powerful creature out there. You know, with Steppenwolf, you're like, okay, Steppenwolf is powerful, but he's not Darkseid powerful. So, you know, when we got to see Ares, out of all people, chopping with that axe and basically taking him out of the fight, I'm kind of like, ooh, I don't know if I like that aspect of it. I get it. You could say, well, it's Zeus and Ares. That actually is the one that did it. But I'm like, come on. Ares was defeated by Wonder Woman. So if you put it this way, if Ares was defeated by Wonder Woman, how can Wonder Woman, by that logic, Wonder Woman should be able to defeat Darkseid, which I think we all kind of know that's just not going to happen. So yeah, in that regard, I'm kind of like, they probably should have left that out. They also did some really bad CGI on Ares. I don't know why, but it looked really piss poor. I hated the look of him. But I mean that flashback scene was a lot better, no doubt. It was a lot better, and how they even got to that flashback scene was better. It made more sense. It was not Batman kind of figuring out stuff with the mother box. It was basically Wonder Woman explaining to him what happened. I like that it was a more logical way for him to find out. So I like that aspect of it. But I just feel like Darkseid just being defeated in that way just kind of was like, uh, they could have done it a little bit better in my book. They should have never showed him being defeated. It takes away from, I don't know, his strength level. This unstoppable force. It was almost kind of like in Avengers where you had Thanos waiting, in the background, and you think, oh man, once Thanos gets here, none of these people are going to be able to stand against him. And it was kind of that way. Uh, but I kind of feel like with Ares, I'm like, well, I mean, not with Ares, but with Darkseid, we've already been seen him defeated once. Yeah, we know at the end of the day, like, he takes over, the world, but at the same time, he takes over the world because Superman lost Lois Lane, and therefore Superman enslaves humanity and works for him. Like, okay, I mean, I get it. I guess the Superman completely and totally forgets all of his morals and, I don't know, enslaves humanity, including, I guess, his mom. Like, I mean, I don't really quite understand exactly how that works. Like, you're telling me that just basically he's like, well, Darkseid comes here and he, in my time of consoling, he puts his hand on me, and therefore we're best buddies, and now we're gonna go enslave the world together. That seems stupid. That seems really stupid. Even if uh, Superman hated Bruce Wayne for whatever reason it is, I don't see that happening. It had a real injustice feel. And I'm kind of, when I'm sitting there watching that, of course, that was in, the Whedon version as well. But I'm thinking to myself, wait a second, wait a second. So you're telling me that that's all it took was, for y'all to rip off Injustice, and that just be that. And Superman's a villain, the worst villain, irredeemable villain. Uh, just didn't fly with me. It didn't fly with me in Injustice. It didn't fly with me in this as well. So I'm kind of like, yeah, that was kind of a letdown in that regard. The whole story around that aspect was kind of a letdown. I kind of feel like if they would have done like some version where that, it's some kind of implant or something like that that causes Superman to, turn on the world or something, some kind of control that Darkseid has over him. I can understand that a lot better. I just don't like the aspect that it just is Lois Lane dying. I just kind of feel like you don't hate the world because Lois Lane dies. You don't allow millions of people to die because Lois Lane died. That doesn't seem very Superman-y, I guess, in a way. Um, Speaking of the apocalypse scenes, I did not enjoy them. I did not enjoy those scenes at all. At all. I thought one, I don't really understand the dream sequences. Why is Batman getting these dream sequences? I do not know. I do not understand why. Um, I kind of felt like the dream sequences were very overrated simply because the dialogue was so bad. It was just so bad when you have Batman talking to the Joker, Jared Leto's Joker. Now, granted, you can say, okay, this is a toned down, better version of Jared Leto's Joker, but why can this guy not get that part right? Like, it's just like, why have him if he cannot get that part right? He comes off as a toned down version of the Joker that we saw in Suicide Squad, but he's still got like this weird laugh. And I can never get past the laugh because I'm like, why do you sound like a seagull? Like, why do you think that's the laugh that the Joker actually needs? Like, I don't really understand that aspect of it. I liked maybe it was like I think what was it, The Dark Knight Rises or something like that. That movie where you have the Joker in that, like he's got kind of a raspy voice and it just kind of works a little bit better. But Jared Leto's Joker going, oh. It sounds like you sound like Penguin. What are you doing? I just hated that aspect of him. I don't think Jared Leto is right for that part. I think he did a really crappy job as Joker. But there is a little something in there about those apocalypse scenes that actually did make me think, I don't think he's actually the Joker. I think he's actually Robin. I think he is what the Joker did to Robin. And I think that's the reason why when they ask the questions, why do you have him here? Or what, in Batman's keeping him alive basically is because that's Robin. I actually think that would be a really cool way where that's not actually the Joker, where you could actually say, you know what? That's Jared Leto and he does a terrible job playing the Joker, but that's not actually the real Joker. I would be cool if it was that way. I actually kind of think that's where it was kind of going. It seemed that way because he did speak about, about, oh, you didn't save him and blah, 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 all this other stuff. And of course, you have that F-bomb that was dropped by Ben Affleck. And I'm like, do we really even need this dialogue right here? Probably not. You're literally out in the middle of nowheres. Out in the middle of nowheres. You know that at any time you could be spotted. And you want to sit around and have that conversation? Is that really a conversation you want to take a chance of dying over? Like, I have a huge problem with that. I didn't like Mira's version of it too, where she's like, well, I'm going to go, let Superman come and I'm going to kill him. You're going to kill him? You're going to kill him. If Aquaman couldn't kill him, you're going to kill him. That makes no sense. No sense. You couldn't even defeat Steppenwolf. Even though, granted, you did give him, something. But you couldn't defeat Steppenwolf. You're not going to defeat Superman. That's just my take on that. I don't know. That apocalypse scene just, to me, was just, could have been done differently. I didn't really understand it. I didn't understand anything when it had to do with the Martian Manhunter, too. That was another thing that was just like, is Martian Manhunter just there to just like let us know that he's there? Like, why does the world's ending and he doesn't take part in it, and he keeps saying, well, now I'm going to take part in it. Like, why? Why now are you going to take part in it after the battle's done? Like, if I was Batman in that situation, I would have been a little pissed, because I've been like, wait a second, buddy. You could have helped us out, and what did you do? You just sat around keeping your identity. And what was the point of her, of Martian Manhunter going to Lois Lane and as Superman's mom? Like, and then he's like, the world needs Lois Lane. That's what you do? Like, you pretend to be some a woman that lives on a farm, like in, some woman that writes some papers. Like, once Superman was gone, Lois Lane, really, the world did not need Lois Lane that much. So I'm kind of like, I think you got better things to do, Martian Manhunter. Like, I don't know, maybe helping them save the world instead of worrying about whether Lois Lane was, back at, writing articles. Like, I thought that part was a little stupid. But I mean, let's see, what other things? There was just so many things. I know I'm kind of going all over the place on this. I felt like Superman, though. There was one person that actually I felt like was most improved, was definitely Superman. One, he didn't look weird. Two, it expanded on his scenes a little bit. Made him a more likable character. Still not really quite that sure why it took him so long to get involved in the fight. They spent they spent all this time being like, well, we're going to bring him back. And then once they brought him back, they're like, well, we're on this on our own. And I'm kind of like, what was the point of bringing him back if y'all were just going to just let him go hang out in Kansas or something while the apocalypse was happening? So I was kind of like, yeah, that was kind of a little stupid in my book. But as far as the Flash is concerned, though, Ezra Miller did a lot better job in the Snyder Cut. He's a lot better Flash than what I initially gave him credit for. He did have some funny scenes, in this, which was also in the Whedon cut. But overall, I thought his character, while it was expanded upon, was it showed him more as a hero in this one than just acting like he doesn't know what he's doing. Like, he actually had a point of being there. And he saved a lot of people. The hot dog scene. I was watching the hot dog scene where Iris West is crashing in the car and she's in the air. And, he's sitting there. He's fixing to save her and he's just looking up at her. I thought maybe they did a little way too much on the slow-mo scenes on this Snyder version. But I felt like the hot dog scene where he was like, you know what? I'm going to save this beautiful woman, and I'm also going to get this hot dog, so that I can get this job, like for these dogs. And so I'm like, that was actually kind of cool. That was a funny scene. I laughed at that scene. I enjoyed Ezra Miller's character a lot more in this than what I did in the original one. So yeah, I felt like that was I felt like the ones that I felt that were improved were not the ones that people are saying were improved. Everybody's raving about Cyborg. I felt like Cyborg's character overall story arc was just a complete and total waste. It didn't do anything for me. It didn't move the meter at all for me when it come to the Snyder Cut. But I did enjoy the Flashes, Superman's, extended cut. I love that a lot more. I enjoyed that they spent more time in Themyscira a little bit. I loved specific things that really a lot of people aren't talking that much about. I like that. Those things about it. I felt like, yeah, when, even going back to the slow motion scenes, I felt like they did that way too often. Like, do we really seriously? And I get it, they're doing it for the women and all that. With the Aquaman taking his shirt off thing, I'm like, you've got a 4 hour movie, 4 hour movie. Do we need that many slow motion scenes in one movie? Like, it's okay if you do it. Like take the at the end the Steppenwolf scene where he's flying through the air and Wonder Woman's cutting his head off. That was a cool slow motion scene. But these other scenes, that was like, why did we need that exactly? So yeah, I felt like if there was like one little pet peeve that I did have with this, it was kind of that. Um, I just felt like the greatest improvement though wasn't just the storyline, but was giving each one of these characters something to do during the final battle. They felt like the Justice League that you would expect. They came together. They each had their part. They each had some really cool scenes that really proved their worth. And I really liked that battle scene at the end a lot better. I mean, there was anything that just made me go, you know what? Love the Snyder version of it. Is that battle at the very end? It's just so much improved. Even Darkseid's best scene was when, Steppenwolf's head rolls over to him and he just crushes it with his foot. Like, I thought that part was kind of cool. I did kind of wonder. I'm like, the door's open here, buddy. Like, why didn't you just run through it and, I don't know, try to kill all of them? So I was kind of like, that was kind of a little bit stupid, this whole stare off thing. But at least he knows who he's fighting. But overall, I would say, yeah, it's vastly improved. It's vastly improved. Definitely would recommend it. I actually can't, even though it's 4 hours, it didn't really feel like 4 hours. I really enjoyed it. Again, I have my same complaints of if it was a 2 hour version, how good would it have been? Probably would have been a lot, would have resembled Whedon's version a lot more. Maybe would have been a little bit better, but it would have probably resembled Whedon's version because you wouldn't have been able to flesh out the characters that much. And plus, you wouldn't have had to have all these cool scenes. Though you could have maybe not had the woman sniffing the sweater. That would have been cool. I would have liked not having that scene. Well, they're just randomly singing. That was stupid. Stupid. But overall, yeah, guys, I love the Snyder Cut. I think it was everything that the billing said it was going to be. It kind of surprised me in that because it did kind of change my mind a little bit on where DC is compared to Marvel. I feel like with DC now, I'm kind of like, now that the Snyder Cut's released, now Marvel is going to have to try to come up with something to match that. And I think that's like a cool reversal of roles. It was just, everybody's talking about how dark it was. I didn't really find it to be that dark. Everybody's like, oh, well, there's all these scenes where, death and all that. And I'm like, it was, I guess maybe I just didn't notice it quite as much. I get it. There was more Amazons that probably died. But besides that, yeah, there wasn't like a whole lot of just out and out death that really probably deserved it. Something like a higher R rating or something along those lines. Like, I don't know what it was rated, but I just kind of feel like the hype of it being darker wasn't really there to me. I kind of felt like, yeah, so that was a little bit overrated in my book. But overall, I loved it. I thought it was great. I cannot wait, and I cannot wait to see Justice League 2. If we ever get a Justice League 2, that is saying something, because before I was like, you know what, they should just kind of like scrap everything and just go back and try to change things up. Now I'm kind of like, don't scrap it. Actually, just go through this world. But at the same time, it's like, do you want? I mean, now that we've seen Snyder's version, if Snyder doesn't do the second Justice League film, then all his vision is completely for nothing. So all the amazing things that we did get to see won't ever be, even if they are explained, it won't be him explaining it. So I'm kind of like, oh man, maybe it got us a little bit worked up for something that we're not actually going to ever get to see fully. So in that regard, yeah, I am a little bit disappointed. But as far as the Snyder Cut, like I said, it was everything that it needed to be. Uh, it surpassed my expectations. It was worth it. Zack Snyder, you did a great job. And as always, guys, let me know what y'all think in the comment section down below. And thanks so much for watching. Y'all